Our next presenter is Steve Richter. Steve represents Nature Conservancy. They have been a big part of LASA's growth, run the data on the member conservation practice survey, and evaluate the group's growth from year to year. The Nature Conservancy provides programs to encourage conservation practices. Please welcome Steve Richter.
Thank you. And I'm going to rely on Jamie and Rebecca to advance the slides, and I'm probably going to shorten this up because I'm going to respect everyone's time there. The two previous presentations were incredibly good, lots and lots of information. So my head's spinning, and I'm sure yours is too. So I'm going to sort of get right to just a few simple tables, but they really illustrate the tremendous effort that the farmers in LASA are making to learn from each other and to put conservation to work. And by doing that, to really have a beneficial impact on the environment. Next slide, Jamie or Rebecca. So to get right at it, every year a conservationist survey is provided to every member of this farmer-led group and to, excuse me, 4 other farmer-led groups that DSSA, Dairy Strong Sustainability Alliance, and the Nature Conservancy we work with. And and on that survey, we're really looking for just the members to tell us how many acres of practices you put into place, and by doing that, and we get a tremendous return rate, well over 80 to 90. In some cases, all members return it, and we're able to then create really simple tables, but I think they're very effective in illustrating what conservation is taking place. And this is the first of 2 slides. And so the type of practice which we're calling good conservation practices to build soil health, to assess soil health, are on the far left. And then we have 3 years worth of data here since this group has been incorporated as a nonprofit and as we've been doing the surveys. And you could read for yourself on any one of those conservation practices what's really going on with the group in terms of use of that practice. And at a future board meeting, I'm going to maybe spend some time and get into this a little bit more with the board members to really look at what numbers are really surprising them, what are they really happy about, where do they see maybe room for members to learn more about or improve. Next slide. This is the second of those slides illustrating practices. So this is just the remaining practices we're tracking. And just to illustrate, LDMI is low disturbance manure injection. And so that's getting the manure injected into the ground with a minimal impact or tillage, and a nice increase in acres utilizing that technique taking place between 2019 and 2020. Survey response is again illustrating many, if not all, of the members of LASA participating in the survey, and showing an increase in membership in the time. Of note, just to illustrate, this is data from 2018, 19, and 20. I see a small mistake there at the top. Next slide. The next slide is just a recap of certain of the practices that we've really, I think, have been illustrated or highlighted by the 2 previous speakers. The value of cover crops and reduced tillage, which we're calling conservation tillage, strip tilling or no-till planting of the crop in the spring. How in just one short year, this is illustrating just pulling out some of those practices to highlight. And then at my final note there is really looking at the concept of fertilizer efficiency, and how can we be assessing or measuring how farmers are trying to be more efficient with their fertilizers. That could be through variable rate application, or by putting a stabilizer with the nitrogen so that it stays in a state that can be utilized by plants, or by splitting the nitrogen from spring application, fall and spring application. And to the credit of the members is that they're seeing those increases. Next slide. This is a recap of 4 of the groups that I noted earlier. So the Lafayette area group that we're at today is on the far left. Peninsula Pride Farms, the group up in Kewaunee, Door County. The Sheboygan River Progressive Farmers is in Sheboygan River. And then WWCC is the Western Wisconsin farmer-led group, and that's up in Pepin, Pierce, St. Croix counties. And I just wanted to give a sense of that the efforts that are taking place by the farmers that are members of your organization are being echoed or in these other groups. And these are 4 of 33 such farmer-led groups across the state of Wisconsin. And I believe strongly that the significant learning and significant increases in conservation taking place across Wisconsin on our agricultural fields is a big part of the efforts of farmers getting together, taking a leadership role in these farmer-led groups. They're the ones who should be at the table, helping make decisions about how conservation is done on our farm fields. And the numbers here are illustrating the increase of practices that are taking place as more and more members are joining such groups, or as members themselves are increasing practices on their farms. And of note, a fraction of these acres of practices are being cost shared by funds from groups like the Nature Conservancy or agencies like the Wisconsin Department of Ag. They have that agency has a wonderful cost share program utilized across Wisconsin. It helps take away a little bit of the risk. It helps incentivize or encourages practices, but yet in LASA's group and in all of these other groups noted are putting twice, 3 times, 4 times more practices in place than what they're getting cost shares for. And as was alluded to way back when Jim started his remarks, is the groups are tinkering with their cost share programs to figure out, okay, how can we continue to accelerate learning and accelerate new kinds of practices, and that's what we want to have take place in these groups. So I'm going to end it there, and realize that many of the board members are going to have a chance to really sit down with me to go through these numbers in the future at a future board meeting, to really think about, what do they mean to them, and I again appreciate working with all of you who are there in attendance, and like was echoed earlier. I'm looking forward to the chance of someday getting back out with you again on your farms. So thank you.
We've come a long way in 3 years.
I'll turn it back to you all.
Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure getting to know you over the last 3 years, and all the help that you've given the LASA group. We could not be here without you. You're a huge player in our group, and we really appreciate all your help. We actually talked a little bit earlier at our member meeting about we got 3 members that maybe you're interested in doing some cover crops this spring. And I know me and you have talked about that previously. So there may be something we might be able to put together for spring cost share too. So I want to give you a heads up on that a little bit.